The next speaker don't need the presentation. He is we are receiving a from the people from here that say Instituto de Física do Centro Internacional de Física da Universidade de Brasília parabenizam o professor Viktor Dodonov pelo aniversário de 75 anos, dos quais 20 anos foram dedicados à Universidade de Brasília e 50 anos à física quântica. Professor?
Okay.
This is your... More than 27 years in Brazil, you are working 50 years in quantum mechanics. You can say what?
Thank you very much. Okay. First of all, after this talk of Solomon, I want to thank him a lot because actually I forgot already the history of coming here. Now I remember that it was not very easy, and you saw how many efforts Solomon applied to bring me here, because there was some struggle with embassy. I visited them several times, and Solomon helped a lot. And during all our stay in Brazil, he helped me, Luba, our family a lot. So thank you very much, Solomon. And now I shall tell you a little bit about my life in quantum mechanics. This was asked of Alexander and Olavo to give some informal talks. Therefore, I shall try to tell you about some funny stories and a little about science. But at least this photo shows that at least I know some basic equations of quantum mechanics. And the next slide will be all you know me more or less in this form. But I was not in this form many years ago. So here you see my photos. One of these photos is 1966, when I finished my school and entered Moscow Institute of Physics and Technology, where I studied during 6 years. This is photo 10 years later, when I defended my PhD thesis, June 4, 76. June 4 is a good date for us because it is birthday of Pavel, our youngest son, but a little bit late in 87. Okay, let us move. And actually, all my possible successes are due to my studies in Moscow Institute of Physics and Technology. And I guess that everybody will agree that this is one of the best technical universities of all our solar system. I do not know about Andromeda galaxy, but in our solar system, one of the best. Okay. And you see, this is the first building of this institute. Although name is Moscow Institute of Physics and Technology, it never was in Moscow. It was in some small city, Dolgoprudny, nearby, maybe 10, 20 kilometers from Moscow. And you see there are two dates here, 46 and 51. Why? Because on the 25th of November 46, head of our state or Prime Minister Joseph Stalin signed the decree on creation of physical technical faculty of Moscow State University. And you see, my real birthday will be on November 26. But you see that it was already known 2 years later that I will go there, because you see, my birthday 26, here's 25, but 25 in Moscow time. And we know that Stalin worked at night. Therefore, probably he signed this document at 11 p.m. on 25. But I was born in Kazakhstan. It is about 3,000 kilometers to the east, and time difference is 3 hours. And my mother told me that I was born at 2 a.m. So we tell this difference. Therefore, actually, in Moscow time, I was born on 25. So it was already predicted that I shall go there. And another date, 51. Why? Because there was some troubles with new faculty in Moscow State University, and Council of Moscow State University decided to close this faculty. It seemed that it is not very good for Moscow State University. But creators of this faculty, creators of this institute, they found a way how to save. They asked some general, lieutenant general of our air forces to go to write a letter, but it is not was sufficient to write a letter, to go directly to Stalin and to explain him the situation. And this was Lieutenant General of Aviation, General Petrov. Why he was chosen? Because Stalin knew him personally, because during the battle for Moscow in autumn of 1941, General Petrov was commander of all defense system of aviation. Therefore, Stalin knew him quite well. And when they spoke, Stalin told, Minister of Education already signed decree that the faculty will be closed. And I have no right to change this decree. Okay, decree will be same, but instead of reopen this faculty, we shall create new institute, Moscow Institute of Physics and Technology. This was new birthday. Therefore, now people can celebrate the birthday of our institute twice. It depends on their views. Okay, this is the first building. And I was in this building for the first time in April of 1965, when I participated in the All-Union Olympiad on Mathematics and Physics. And the physical part was here in Moscow Institute of Physics and Technology, mathematical part in Moscow State University. I was better in physics that time, and I received the third place, and I received a diploma from the hand of Piotr Kapitsa. You know, this is great physicist, one of discoverers of superfluidity in helium, and he was one of creators of the university. So he shook my hand and was one of the first great physicists whom I met in my life. Okay, and after that, I received invitation to pass some time in summer school on the coast of Black Sea, and we not only had a rest, but there we have some classes. And the professors of school were professors of Moscow Institute of Physics and Technology, and students, graduate students of this institute. And for the first time, I saw their famous Newton rings and other experiments in optics. Therefore, for me, it was quite obvious that I have to go to this institute. Next year, I passed entrance exams and became a student. And here, my trajectory there. I was student from 66 to 72, assistant professor 72, 77. You know, in the Soviet Union, there was the system, which seems to me good, because what is the main problem of all young people who studied in the university? Okay, they studied university, defended the master degree, PhD, but what to do next? They have to find job and to pass concours and so on. In Soviet Union, the system was different because, especially in my university, we worked in some laboratories of great institute like physical Lebedev Institute of Physics or Kurchatov Institute of Nuclear Energy, and our destiny was predetermined. After that, we were simply distributed to work. But I was not distributed because my initial specialty was not physics, but aeromechanics. And I wanted to change to physics. And people thought that I was a good student, and they chose me to be assistant professor at that university. Formally, I passed this concurso several years later, but it was also very funny story. After 4 or 5 years, was told that I have to pass this concurso. How? It maybe must be official, popular, therefore there must be some announcement in some newspaper. But the newspaper, they chose some newspaper which were published only in some small town, maybe the same Dolgoprudny. So nobody knew this. When I went to Department of Personnel, I told that I brought documents for this concurse. The answer was immediate. What concurse? There is no concurse. Why you came here? But I told them, but this is concurse for me. Ah, for you. So please take us. I do not know whether the system was good or not, but some good things from my point of view existed. And then I was a senior lecturer and finally associate professor until 96 when we moved to Brazil. But formally, I continued to be associate professor of the university until 2000. 2000. Of course, I did not receive salary, but some additional payments. You know, there are some additional payments for meal, something people received. I signed the papers, and they received and used that money to organize some party for or cocktails here. Okay. And all the time since 72, I was affiliated to the Lebedev Institute of Physics. My scientific life was there. So in Moscow Institute of Physics and Technology, I was a teacher, but as a scientist, I was in Lebedev Physics Institute. Okay. And this is a recent photo I made this July. We visited Moscow this year. And this is one of new buildings of university. Now it has many buildings. And here are Fistech fathers. So we call our university as Fistech. And you see, this is Landau. This is Nikolai Semyonov. This is Petr Kapitsa, all creators of our university. And I told you that Kapitsa shakes my hand, okay? Landau was one of the teachers of my teacher, Vladimir Manko. For this reason, Vladimir Manko sometimes tells that I am a scientific grandson of Landau. Of course, this is a joke because I never met Landau. Okay, but I met students of Landau. And you see the next story. January 1969, we had, after first 5 or sometimes 6 semesters, we had some state exam, a final exam on general physics, about all parts of general physics. And we had some written work and then oral exam. And there was commission, usually from 4 to 5 great physicists, including directors of leading institutes in Moscow. And in my commission, the president was Professor Vladimir Berestetsky. He was one of the first students of Landau. And at that time, he was head of theoretical physics department of this university, and he is known as one of the authors of very good book on quantum electrodynamics. And what is interesting, there was system that in the beginning of oral exams, students had to tell about some topic on their choice, about 10 minutes. And this was the first possibility to study scientific literature, not only textbooks, but we have to find some articles and try to understand them. And I chose that time theme diabetic invariance. So this is one of my best subjects in physics since that time. And the president was Vladimir Berestetsky. Why I told about this? Because when I was PhD student, okay, my real supervisor was Vladimir Manko. But according to some rules, he could not be officially my supervisor. And therefore, formally in all documents, my supervisor was Vladimir Berestetsky. But this was quite accidental that I met him for the first time when I was a third-year student, and after that I was his student in PhD. But he did not interfere in our work, only signed all necessary documents. But in principle, if I want, I can tell that I am a student of Berestetsky. Okay, let us go. And I found this photo in internet of this place. This is one of the main prospects of Moscow. It was called Kalinin Prospect, now it's simply Arbat. And this place, this cinema theater, and this is a shop of music instruments and music discs at that time, this vinyl discs named Melodia. Why? Because in the more or less at the end of the beginning of summer of 1970, I met Vladimir Manko because he was our teacher in when we studied quantum mechanics, and I liked his lessons a lot, and I applied to him saying that I would like to work with him. And he told me, okay, let us meet somewhere and discuss. And we met just in front of this shop. Before I bought this disc of Beethoven Fifth Symphony, and in the envelope I wrote the address of Vladimir Manko to visit him. Until now, this disc is in our apartment in Moscow. So this is a remarkable place. And here is a photo, more or less recent, 5 years ago. I did not find old photos, photos when Vladimir was much younger. So we are in front of Lebedev Physics Institute. This is the statue of Pyotr Lebedev. And so we started to work, and he gave me that, okay, they just with his colleague Ilya Malkin, they were the first people who understood how to create coherent states of particle in magnetic field, but in the case of the circular gauge. And he told me, okay, you should read papers, and I read papers of Glauber, and try to generalize it to the case of Landau gauge. And I worked hardly, and the most hard part of work was done in the winter of 71. I was with relatives of my mother in Kazakhstan, and the winter was with very high level of snow and strong winds named Buran. And for several days, people practically could not go out of their apartments or houses. So what could I do? At that time, I did not bring a lot of wine or vodka, so I only sat down and I calculating inverted fourth order matrices, and I did this job. So, and in between, I read all famous pieces of Shakespeare. Of course, that translations to Russian by Boris Pasternak. Okay, and this is my first paper. Is this preprint of Lebedev Institute, made in 71, you see. And I decided to show you, especially for young people, how we wrote papers that time. Of course, Solomon, Barry, all everybody knows this, but young people do not know. Now they use computer, do this in LaTeX or Word. But that time, you see, or yourself or somebody had to type the text, but our type written machines could not put equations. So equations should be put in hand. So you see this in hand. But this is preprint. But if we send this to some journals, we had to make a lot of work because, for instance, you see there are some sub-indices and upper indices. We had to make some marks. So this is sub-index, this is upper index. Moreover, this Greek letters and this is Roman letters. So we have to distinguish Greek and Roman. Therefore, a lot of artistic work at that time. Okay, now nobody knows how to do this. And this was our first paper with Vladimir Manько and Ilya Malkin, published in 72. You see that it was received 29 June and published 1 year later, but that time all was much more slower than now. And this is photo of Vladimir Ilya Malkin, a very brilliant physicist. Unfortunately, he died in 82 at the age of 42 years, and presumably he was killed. Nobody discovered what happened in reality with him. He disappeared, and his body was found almost 1 month later in Moscow River. Okay. But he was a very brilliant physicist. And now I shall tell you how I entered the PhD program. So in 72, I finished the university and I received some, because my work diploma was good, I received some permission to continue as PhD students, because formally everybody must to spend some time in some laboratory, so on, and only after 3 years to apply for continuation. But for the best students, there was possibility to continue immediately. But for this, we had to pass entrance exams. Exams were what? In about English, about Marxist-Leninist philosophy. In English, I had highest mark. About philosophy, not so high, but sufficient. And the main examination was, of course, in speciality. In speciality was commission, I guess, that was brilliant physicist, Sergei Alliluev. At that time, he was deputy head of the Department of Theoretical Physics. Then he was for many years head of this department. Semyon Gerstein and Leonid Ponomarev, all brilliant physicists. And Ponomarev wrote a very nice book in English translation, The Quantum Dice, in Russian original, Under the Sign of Quantum. I recommend everybody to use it when you teach your students quantum mechanics, because it is popular, but with formula, but with history of quantum physics. Therefore, it is an excellent book. This great physicist heard me before. I asked, what about this will be the exam? They told it will be about quantum mechanics. I had to find some paper and tell about this paper. And okay, I told about some paper, answered some questions. And the last question was, when you see that you have to finish your examination, and you see that we shall not spend a lot of time. Let us ask about something very simple. And very simple question was, please write distributions of Fermi-Dirac and Bose-Einstein. Of course, every crocodile in Amazonas or in Mississippi knows what is the formula for Fermi-Dirac statistic, what formula for Bose-Einstein statistic. They are given here. But I made error. I changed the signs. I put minus here and plus here. It is unimaginable how adult person could make some terrible mistake. But why I did this mistake? Because I tell you about this. Because this is difference between psychology of professors and students. Because remember, they told me that exam will be about quantum mechanics. But for us, for Russian students, what is theoretical physics? This is all volumes of course of theoretical physics written by Landau, Lifshitz, and their colleagues. Quantum mechanics is the third volume. Statistical physics, where distributions of Fermi-Dirac and Bose-Einstein, this is fifth volume. Therefore, I read again third volume, but I did not pay attention to the fifth. Of course, for any of us, this distribution, of course, this is quantum mechanics, quantum physics. But for young student, this was quite different. And now we know with a lot of our students, for instance, they studied physics 1 and then physics 3. Physics 1 about mechanics, physics 3 about electricity, and they believe that they are quite different things. Of course, they are not quite different. Physics is united, but in textbooks, sometimes it is separated. Okay, I made this terrible mistake. Commission was quite surprised, but they decided that, okay, the exam was already a lot of time. Maybe I was tired. They preferred to close their eyes on this error, and they gave me the highest mark, and I entered. But since that time, almost 50 years, I had to prove in all my scientific work that I am not a complete idiot, that I can write something reasonable. Okay, this is story. And my defense was in June 4, and opponents, so people who read the work and wrote some conclusions were David Kilzins from Lebedev Institute and Rufat Mirkasimov from Joint Institute of Nuclear Research in Dubna. On my point of view, David Kilzins was one of the last universal physicists. What means universal physicist? People who knew everything from solid state physics to cosmology, electrodynamics, and so on. Probably now universal physicists do not exist. A few days ago, we discussed this question. For instance, even Ginzburg, who was one of the leading physicists in Soviet Union, he was not universal. There was something about which he did not know. Even Landau was not so universal, but Kilzins was, and I was happy that he wrote my thesis, and he wrote some very non-trivial conclusion and approved this. Okay, let us go further. These are my publications included in this thesis, 13 papers. Actually, in the day of defense, I thought, oh, maybe some earthquake will happen this day. How can I defend my work if I had only 13 publications? Now in Brazil, I understand that many people defend it without any publication. But okay, all was good. And now let us go further. 1979. This is very important year in my life. I married Luba, and of course, all my successes are due to her love and care of me. So this is one of the best things that I did in my life. Okay, now let us return. My photos of that time, as I was a teacher, and now some histories. I shall go to that story about stolen computer. What happened? In 1979, we organized some first seminar, international seminar on group theoretical methods in physics. And I was scientific secretary of this seminar. And after that, we published proceedings of this event. And you see, we spent a lot of time because I remember how to publish proceedings. Somebody printed text, and we had to put formulas and to check all the formulas. So we spent a lot of time in the publishers Nauka in Russian, science. Okay, and published these proceedings, from my point of view, rather good work. And several months later, one of students came to Vladimir Manko and asked him, "Oh, Professor, maybe I do not know English quite well, but please look what is written, physics." We looked how it happened. And we know that there are a lot of mysteries in our universe. For instance, what is dark matter, dark energy? But of course, in some time, these mysteries will be resolved. But this mystery, I guess, never will be resolved. How this happened? Because to publish something in the Soviet Union was not trivial thing, because we had to pass a lot of instance and censure existed. Somebody had to approve this. There was some title of this book signed by director of publishing house, and after that we looked. In all preliminary materials were written correctly, but how it happened, we do not know. Okay, past 3 years, we organized the second seminar in 82, okay, and then we published new proceedings of this event. Now, everybody in this publishing house checked this front page. Everybody looked, okay, you see how physics is written. And okay, and all was printed. But at the last moment, when it all was printed, people noticed that we checked this part, but nobody paid attention to the last line, where it was printed the year of publication. If we look more carefully, you will see that this letter 3 or digit 3 has style a little bit different of others. Why? Because people used front page of the previous proceedings, and that was the year 1980, and must be 83. So we sent to our students to Kalinin, city nearby Moscow, in typography, and they by hand corrected all this, about 500 copies of this book. But now I believe that it was mistake why we changed the year, because we could let us think about the following story. Probably in some decades, some centuries, somebody will invent time machine. Okay, And probably in encyclopedia of year 3000, it will be written that the first proof of existence of time machine was made in Lebedev Physics Institute because they published proceedings of seminar in year 1980, although seminar was in 82. But we corrected this letter. Therefore, in future encyclopedias, nobody will write this thing. And since I promised you to tell some funny stories, I will tell you my theory about existence of time machines. For some years, until year 1991, I had a very strong theory that time machine can be constructed, must exist. Why? Because you know that great theories must explain things that were not included from the very beginning. You know, for instance, Maxwell equations. Maxwell tried to unite electricity and magnetism, but the consequence was explanation of optics. Optics is part of electrodynamics, we know. And now, what was my great theory? Everybody in Soviet Union knew that the future will be communist society. Communism is inevitable. Nobody in Soviet Union could doubt in this. Okay, everybody knows, but everybody knew reality of socialism in Soviet Union. All time we had problem with food. We spent a lot of time in shops looking for food, for meal, for fish, and so on. Therefore, everybody knew that socialism is closely related to problem of food. And if future will be communist, and then Soviet Union had 200 million, and all population is the billions, what people will eat in communism? And the answer was found by me. Because you see, there are some events. Communism inevitable. People had problems with food. Where they will find food in the future? But the answer is the following. We note that about 70 million years ago, dinosaurs rapidly disappeared. They existed during many millions of years, and then very rapidly they disappeared. Some people believe that, some asteroid hit Earth and the consequence was disappearance of it. But my theory was more strong because how was resolved problem of food in the future? Very simple. People in future invented time machines, went to the epoch of dinosaurs. Every dinosaur has a lot of meat. And therefore, they take this meat to the future. So dinosaurs disappeared because they were eaten by the new generations. Theory, from my point of view, is excellent. But after 1991, after this catastrophe of Soviet Union, the basic axiom of my theory was broken. Therefore, now I am not sure that time machine existed. Probably dinosaurs were killed by asteroid. Okay, this is one thing. And another thing interesting, in the proceedings of the second seminar, we worked in some large room, and there were two teams of women who worked in this room. And one team prepared our proceedings of our group theoretical seminar, and another worked on the proceedings of some conference on rodents, rats, mice, other. And in some books, how book is made, people print some pages, they collect some pages and unite them in the total book. But appears that in some of proceedings, pages about physics were mixed with pages about rats. And I even understand why that women who were not physicists, of course, why they did not notice this. Because you see, for physicists, what is one of the main objects? Cats, Schrödinger cats. For zoologists, rats. Okay, and if you have papers about cats, then you can have papers about rats. It's quite common. But when we saw this, we made a mistake. We destroyed all these incorrect books. And now I see that this was mistake, because if we did not mistake, then now we could sell these books for very high price, and then we could pay travel tickets for all our participants, but we could not prevent our future. We destroyed these books. Okay. Oh, and this is photos of Margarita Manько, who participated a lot in organization all of our conferences, and even in the first conference in 1979, Professor Glauber, during banquet, proposed toast for organizer of our organizer. Our organizer was Vladimir Manько, but who organized Vladimir? Margarita Manько. This is Roy Glauber. I am happy that he participated in many of our events, and we met personally several times. Therefore, I knew at least some very great persons. And let's go further. And after that was another proceedings. I shall not dwell upon it. And now you see the year 1991. This is a crucial year in my life, because before this, I received frequently some invitations to international conferences, but it was practically forbidden for everybody in Soviet Union for many reasons. And in 1991, Soviet Union became more open, and now we could travel. And the first conference where I participated out of Soviet Union was in India, in Hyderabad, organized by Girish Agarwal. And we spent some time in Hyderabad. After that, we spent some time in Delhi. Why? Because that time it was possible to buy tickets only to one way. And for instance, for me, ticket was bought just a few hours before our flight to Delhi on January 1st. But we had no ticket to come back. So we had to wait for some time. We spent this time in Delhi with our Indian friends, and we used some time also to give some lectures, but also to visit some famous places, including this Taj Mahal. And these members of our Lebedev Institute team, this is Volodya Andreev, yes, Valery Karasев. This is Vladimir Isakov, scientific secretary of Lebedev Institute at that time, Nikolai Cherneg and me. Please pay attention on these two persons. They're rather different, but both of them have beards. Okay, in all other respects, Vladimir was tall, I'm not tall, but we had beards. Okay, and after that, what happened? This was our first travel. After that, we participated in some conference in Maryland, first conference on squeeze states and uncertainty relations, organized by Professor Young-Soo Kim. And this is photos Margarita, me, and this is Professor Chungin from Seoul, and Kyu Hwan Yeol from Daejeon in Korea. Okay, and they invited us to visit Korea the same year. After that, there was conference in Goslar, about which Solomon already told. And this is photos in Washington. And you see some very important moment. I bought a laptop. It was at the top of the line at that time. Bondwell 8286 with a hard drive, 40 megabytes. This was most powerful laptop of that time. Okay, and I bought it. I received money we published some proceedings of Lebedev Institute, and we translated it by ourselves, and publishers gave us money. I received $1,000, and I spent all of them for this bond. But there will be continuation of this story. Okay, and this is our team in the zone. This is Professor Andrei Vinogradov, is Henk Arnoldus from United States, and Jeroen. Okay, after that, what happened after that? After that, we prepared second workshop on squeeze states and uncertainty relations. First was in Maryland. The second we decided to organize in Moscow. It is difficult to imagine now, but that time it was quite natural. 1 year in the United States, another year in that time Soviet Union, but now situation is quite different. Okay, but how to prepare this? We had nothing. This is beginning of 90s, terrible time for all Soviet people. We had nothing, and people from Korea were asked by Professor Kim to present us a computer. Okay, they presented us computer, and you see this, even title of this workshop was Joint Lebedev Maryland Workshop. They presented us, computer, but the story was rather interesting. When we returned from Seoul to Russia, I was told that this is present computer, but you by no means must touch it. Okay, I did not understand why, but it was a little bit heavy. If I could not touch it, okay, somebody else will tell. But as every time happens, finally it was discovered that, when you have luggage, you have some pieces of paper where written to whom belongs this luggage. It appears that it was written it belongs to me. But I couldn't understand what happened. And already when we returned to Moscow, I asked Vladimir Isakov, what happened? And then he asked me, okay, your father was an officer in Soviet army 30 years ago, at the end of 50s, beginning 60s. Yes, he was a high-rank officer. He was deputy commander of some aviation division of our strategic bomber divisions. So, of course, everybody in CIA or MI6 knew about his existence. The second question, you have a relative who works in KGB. Husband of Luba's sister, that time was officer of KGB, and he worked in Crimea. But a few days before our leave to Korea, he came to Moscow to visit somebody. Therefore, of course, all intelligence services knew this. And now you see, and I bought computer of top line in United States in the beginning of the year. Therefore, everybody in here calculates, okay, I am son of some high-rank officer of Russia. Okay. My relative is in KGB. He came from Crimea especially to give me instructions on visit, and I am great specialist in computers because I bought some computer in the United States, and after that, we received this computer from our Korean friends. Okay, we brought this computer to Moscow, and we used it, but first thing that we did before the end of the year, in our room in Lebedev Institute, we made safe from metal, and who worked on this safe? Andrei Klimov, Mikhail Lukin, who is a very famous physicist now, but it was his first job in our group. And we used this computer for preparing everything for our conference. And also, for instance, this document, some of the documents shown by Solomon were printed using that computer. Conference was at the end of May, but in beginning of May, with several days of holidays in Soviet Union, And fortunately, before going to holidays, I copied all the materials related to the conference in some floppy disk. You remember that big 5 inches floppy disks. And after the holidays, I come to Lebedev Institute and I meet Andrei. Andrei asked me, Viktor Vasilyevich, why you removed everything from our computer? So somebody entered the room. The room was not broken. Somebody opened our safe with, it seems to be, two very big, how to say this, замок, как будет? With two locks and opened computer, removed hard drive and everything. Now I understand. After my story, of course, CIA or MI6 sent somebody like James Bond, and they entered Lebedev Institute, and they stole this hard drive because they wanted to know why we were so interested in this. So this is funny story. Okay, this is funny story, but we have to go to our cocktail. So I shall try to finish my talk rapidly. After that, what I want to show. Okay, this is what Solomon showed already, our visit to Brazil. And between 93 and 96, we spent 1 year in Cuernavaca in Mexico. I was invited by Thomas Seligman and our friends Natika Takishiyev, Kurt Bernardo Volt, Sergei Chimakov. And what else? The trajectory in Brazil, Solomon already told about this. This photo of our quantum non-stationary system of 2009, you can recognize some of our colleagues. And a photo which I like a lot. This Kim and Solomon during that conference in Foz do Iguaçu 2011, during banquet of this conference. And all that photo with Clauder, was one of great physicists. And now very, very rapidly about main topics of my studies. They were time-dependent quantum invariance in different applications, different modifications, and non-classical quantum states. For instance, one of the first papers was about even and odd coherent states, which are now considered as some models of Schrödinger cat states, some correlated coherent states. And the last paper with my student Miguel Citelli about coherent phase states, not Glauber, but coherent phase states. Okay, this subject also I published a lot of reviews. I like the subject which I call quantum archaeology. I like to look old papers to see who was the first. And preparing this book, I used a library of Institute of Physics of San Carlos. From my point of view, this is one of the best physics libraries in the world, because I spent there a lot of time. And you see, for instance, we prepared with Vladimir Manko brief review on non-classical states. You see the number of references, 1,137. This number is not accidental because, okay, the number accumulated. When it passed through 1,000, I decided, okay, number of our house in San Carlos, exactly 1,137. So I decided to finish at this number. But this is only one of 6 chapters of this book. And the amount of all references was several thousand. And I checked all these references in this library, about 5,000 references, 5,000 papers I read there. It is impossible in any other library. Of course, now it is more simple because we have internet, but at that time, internet was not so powerful as now. So this subject and that what we did with Solomon, nonlinear generalizations of Schrödinger equation. And of course, one of my favorite subjects, dynamical Casimir effect, or one of definitions, creation of the field quanta due to notion of neutral boundaries. And some cartoon of this effect that this is quantum magic. We have quantum magicians. He showed empty box. After that, he closes empty box, then makes some manipulations with empty box, opens, and you see that after manipulation, boxes full of quantum of electromagnetic field. This is very simple explanation, even to explain my children, because frequently our children ask us, what are you doing? When we do not have papers with Pavel because he works uh, in ecology, and it is difficult to invent something like dynamical Casimir effect in ecology. But maybe we shall succeed in future to do this as well. And one my okay. And we began this study exactly due to Andrei Klimov, because when he began to work with Vladimir Manko and me, we gave him the subject exactly related with this generation of electromagnetic field in cavities with moving boundaries. And we made some paper which I am very proud of in 1995, when I was in Mexico. I spent a few days, 3 days, in the house of Andrei in Guadalajara, and we worked intensively all the 3 days, almost without sleeping, without eating. And we resolved the problem. We obtained very, very nice formulas. For instance, you see the problem of photon creation, and the result, we have to calculate some very complicated sums, and we succeeded to calculate this analytically, and all will express in terms of elliptic integrals. Until now, I do not understand the reason why this problems related, the dynamical Casimir effect and theory of complete elliptic integral, but it appeared. And finally, I want to show you very, very briefly quantum particles in magnetic field. I told you this was my first paper, and now I am returning to this problem. And one of the problem was a magnetic moment probability distribution. You all of us know formula famous by Landau that magnetization of collection of charged ideal particles in magnetic field at high temperatures. And we know that magnetization is very, very weak. Why it is weak? One explanation is the following, that magnetization is the derivative of the free energy over the field, but free energy, this difference between real energy and the entropy multiplied by absolute temperature. At high temperature, temperature high, entropy high, and difference is very small. Therefore, when we calculate derivative, then the result is very small. But we found together with Alexander another answer. The answer is known, but another way to obtain this function. We calculated magnetic moment. This is what is this? This is some observable.
therefore it has some operator, and we have to calculate distribution of this observable. And distribution of this observable was obtained by us in the form of for Fock or Darwin and the Fock-Darwin states. And for the equilibrium states, we have to calculate this complicated sum. Some complicated, but Alexander succeeded to do these calculations. And what appeared that distribution is very interesting. You see, distribution is very wide, and for positive and negative values, you see practically symmetry. Very, very small asymmetry here at the top, you see. And outside of this small region, we have very simple approximate expression. And this explains why magnetism in equilibrium state at high temperature is very small, because distribution is very, very symmetric, and only this small part gives some asymmetry and gives this result. This is one of paper which I am very proud of, that I succeeded. Of course, with Alexander, without him, nothing could be done, but we obtained this result. To finish, this is a list of all my co-authors. It seems to me that in total here 79 co-authors during my 50 years in quantum mechanics. And the final list of my students. 5 persons received a PhD in Russia under or with my participation in supervision, and 5 here in Brazil. And also 5 persons received master degree, starting from Olga Manько and terminating with Miguel Citelli, who will, I guess, he will defend his dissertation in a few weeks. So that's all. Excuse me for very long talk, and thank you very much for attention. But now we shall go to cocktail, and we can continue our talks. Thank you very much for coming.